Can I be completely honest with you?
Please.
Before the draft, I told myself, and this was the first year that I actually said this, and probably like ever. I was like, the Browns aren't going to the Super Bowl this year. They're just not. We should tank and we should go for Arch Manning. That's what we should do.
Okay.
After this draft, we're going to the Super Bowl. Like, I don't think you understand. I don't think you understand what happened.
Nobody in Cleveland was supposed to feel this good in May. Before the draft, even the most loyal Browns fans were whispering it quietly. Tank. Rebuild. Go get Arch Manning. That's where the bar was. That's how low the ceiling felt. And then Andrew Berry walked into that draft room and did something nobody saw coming. 4 first-round graded players. No 4 first-round picks, just 4 first-round value players. Through maneuvering, through chess moves, through a Travis Hunter trade that had people spiraling, acquired through a draft that's already being called one of the best in recent memory. But here's the thing nobody's fully processed yet. The Browns didn't just fix their roster, they built an environment, an offensive structure, a foundation for something. And now there's a name floating around, a name that, if it lands in Cleveland, changes everything. Tyreek Hill. What does that mean for Shedeur Sanders? What does that mean for this offense? And what does that mean for a franchise that has been running on hope and heartbreak for longer than anyone wants to admit? That's what we're getting into today.
Stan, do you think you speak for all Browns fans that you want to see the kid rather than Deshaun Watson again? You do?
From me and my friends are all from Cleveland. Right. I think we all, whenever Deshaun was brought to Cleveland, we all went, ugh. And we all liked Baker Mayfield. I think, like, talking to my friends,
yes, sir,
and being able to go to the American Century Championship and play golf with Baker Mayfield and see what he's like around everybody else, that's a guy I can get behind. Like, that's a guy that I want to hang out with and I want to play football with. And he's just a ride or die type of person.
To understand why this moment matters, you have to understand what Cleveland has been carrying. They traded Baker Mayfield, a ride-or-die, moxie-dripping, Cleveland-to-his-core quarterback, for a man who was supposed to be a franchise cornerstone, Deshaun Watson. The contract, the fully guaranteed money, the promise, and what followed was pain, injuries, controversy, negative headlines, a quarterback who never looked right in a Browns uniform. A city that felt betrayed, not just by the results, but by the vibe, the energy, the lack of connection. Baker Mayfield went to Tampa Bay and played in a Super Bowl. Deshaun Watson hasn't played a meaningful game in what feels like forever. That's the scar tissue this organization is working through. So when Shedeur Sanders shows up, 5th-round pick, son of Dion, trained since childhood to handle the pressure of a spotlight, and starts doing little things in the community, starts showing up at events, starts becoming Cleveland, people notice, not because of stats, because of soul. And this fan base has been starving for a quarterback with soul. The idea of Tyreek Hill in Cleveland is so powerful because if there is one move that could completely change how this offense feels overnight, it is adding a receiver who can still scare the league with one touch. NFL.com. Let's look at what Cleveland actually built this offseason, because this isn't just vibes. The offensive line got attacked in the draft. Spencer Fenno early. Pass-catching support added. Casey Conception, Denzel Boston. Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman remain on the roster. Young speed like Isaiah Bond and Gage Larvadane bring developmental upside throughout the room. And now, Todd Monken, a head coach whose entire background screams high-output offense, adaptable personnel usage, is the man in charge. The Browns.com messaging this offseason has made it unmistakably clear. This is about urgency. This is about offense. This is about building an environment where a quarterback doesn't just survive, he thrives. And that's where Tyreek Hill enters the frame. His agent, Drew Rosenhaus, recently appeared on the Stephen A. Smith Show and delivered this. Hill is waiting for medical clearance before signing with a contender. Multiple ligament injury, not your standard ACL, but on track for Week 1. He's available, he's motivated, and right now, nobody is publicly chasing him. That silence is interesting. because the fit, when you look at it through the lens of what Cleveland is building, is almost too obvious to ignore. Here's where this gets deeper than football. Shedeur Sanders doesn't need perfection around him. He's never had it. At Colorado, he was getting hit on half his dropbacks and still making throws that made scouts' jaws drop. He operates from chaos. He has composure that was literally engineered into him from childhood. But what he does need, what every young quarterback needs, is leverage. Give a defense one thing to focus on, and they'll suffocate a young QB. That's how you break confidence. That's how you turn a promising prospect into a cautionary tale. But add Tyreek Hill to that formation, suddenly every defensive coordinator has a problem they have to solve first. Bracket Tyreek, and you've left everyone else in one-on-ones. Bracket everyone else, and Tyreek disappears behind your secondary on a deep crossing route that turns into 6 points. That's not just a scheme advantage, that's a psychological advantage. Because Shedeur sees the bracket, he feels the coverage declare itself, and suddenly the reads aren't complicated, the windows are open, the offense breathes. Peyton Manning had 28 interceptions his rookie year, 28, and we called him a future Hall of Famer because we saw the foundation. We saw the processing. We saw someone learning how to play through the hard parts. Why are we not extending that same lens to Shedeur? Pay attention to what Cleveland is not saying. That's where the real story lives. Todd Monken, when he walked into that building, said he wants Shedeur, said it publicly. That's not nothing. Coaches don't just say things like that without understanding the room, without reading the organization's direction. The draft capital spent on offense, line, skill positions, weapons, tells you what the front office believes. You don't build that infrastructure for a quarterback controversy. You build it for a quarterback coronation. The community work Shedeur is doing, the quiet social media presence in Cleveland, the events, the outreach, that doesn't happen by accident either. That's a player who has decided, this is my city. And organizations notice when a player makes that kind of emotional investment. Now add the way Cleveland has framed this offseason in every public communication. Urgency, firepower, building for a quarterback to succeed. And then ask yourself, would adding Tyreek Hill, even on a structured, incentive-heavy prove-it deal, be inconsistent with everything this franchise just signaled? It wouldn't. It would be the exclamation point. Let's be honest about what this would mean. A Browns offense with improved protection across the line, multiple young weapons with speed and upside, a head coach whose entire identity is offensive design, and Tyreek Hill aligned next to Jerry Jeudy? That offense doesn't look like Cleveland anymore. It looks fast, it looks unpredictable, it looks dangerous. And Shedeur Sanders growing into that setup? That's not a rebuilding year, that's a coming out party. The AFC is wide open, in ways it hasn't been in years. The Bills have questions. The Ravens are always a health concern. Nobody has separated themselves as the dominant force. A Cleveland offense that can threaten you vertically, horizontally, and emotionally, the kind of offense that makes defensive coordinators lose sleep, that team belongs in the conversation. Now, is Tyreek Hill a guarantee? No. The knee is real, the personal conduct investigation is real, the age is real. But here's what's also real. The Browns have already done the hard work. They've already made the bold moves. The structure is there. Tyreek Hill would be the catalyst, the match that lights the fire that was already built. And if it works, if the medical's clear, if the contract is smart, if Monken deploys him the right way, Cleveland doesn't just have hope, Cleveland has a weapon. Before this draft, even the most faithful Browns fan was whispering about tanking, about starting over, about accepting another year of pain. And then, something shifted. 4 first-round caliber players, a head coach built for this offense, a quarterback who has trained his entire life for exactly this kind of pressure. A fan base that for the first time in a long time is genuinely debating Super Bowls, not as a joke, but as a real conversation. And somewhere out there, Tyreek Hill is waiting for a phone call. If Cleveland makes that call intelligently, if the medicals are right, if the money is smart, if the vision is clear, then the offense nobody saw coming becomes the offense nobody can stop. The Browns didn't just rebuild this offseason, they reimagined themselves. And Shedeur Sanders, the fifth-round pick, the legacy kid, the one who took Cleveland as his community before he even took his first real snap, he might just be the quarterback this city has been waiting for all along. Don't laugh. Don't count them out. Wait.